Damien had ran back the way he came, and he saw SCP-173 on the floor below him. He had kept his eyes open, but soon blinked. However, the statue didn't move an inch closer. "Ulgrin, look behind you!" a scientist had shouted. He then looked over to see an agent and the scientist from before backing away slowly. "Oh crap. Keep your eyes on it, Franklin." The lights had flickered, and SCP-173 moved closer to them. They started to back up even faster, to a door behind them. The lights had flickered again, and they all disappeared. Damien ran down the stairs and looked around. Tables were overturned, and chairs were thrown on the ground. He looked on the ground and saw a weird patch of black ooze. He didn't know what it was, but he certainly knew not to touch it. Damien walked through the door that Ulgrin and Franklin had walked through, blinking before he went through. That was a habit he had to get used to with that statue on the loose. He was brought back from his daydreaming as he heard something oozing. He looked above where he was standing, and he saw another patch of black ooze. He dived out of the way when he saw a body come flying out of it. What in the world? Damien looked at the body. It was covered in that black sludge, and the face looked like it had its skin completely burned off until the skull was visible. Damien now knew that he really shouldn't touch that stuff. He went through the door in front of him and looked over the balcony to see two scientists conversing. "Is there a quick way out of here?" the first scientist had asked. "I think the shortest way out is through the southeast wing. Follow me," the second had replied. The scientists were about to head up to the balcony that Damien was standing on, so he got ready to run. However, all three of them had heard shuffling in the vents. What was that? Soon, the lights had went out again, and Damien heard two loud crunches. The lights came back on, and he looked over the balcony to see SCP-173 standing over the bodies of the two scientists. He knew he would be fine as long as the door to his level didn't open. He went into the small storage room next door and found a gas mask and a level 1 key card. Damien knew that he couldn't get anywhere with a level 1 as he slipped the card into his pocket and put the mask around his neck. He looked on the shelves for a higher level key card when he saw a piece of paper. He looked at it and saw that it was SCP-173's description. He already knew what to do with the statue, however, so he didn't bother taking it with him. Damien left the storage room, only to be greeted with the balcony door open and SCP-173 standing by it. He slowly backed away to the door while keeping his eyes on the sculpture. Must not blink. Unfortunately, Damien couldn't resist blinking, and SCP-173 moved right in front of him. Luckily, the button to the door was still behind him. He pressed it, and while still looking at SCP-173, quickly shuffled backward through the door and closed it. Damien sighed. This trip was going to be a long and agonizing one. He kept walking through the nearly endless maze of corridors until he found a room that his keycard could actually get into. He opened the door, and as soon as he stepped in, he heard sounds of stone scraping on the ground. "Oh, great," he said with an annoyed tone. He opened the next door to find SCP-173 in a small glass testing chamber. He was relieved, but still very cautious. He looked on top of one of the drawers to find a level 2 keycard, a couple of batteries, and a radio. Nice, Damien had thought, smirking. Now I can finally get somewhere. He slipped everything into his other pocket and was about to leave when he heard the glass shatter. SCP-173 was right there. Damien just had to yell at this point. Are you kidding me? He backed out quickly to avoid any incidents and locked the door back. Let's see you get out of this one, 173, he taunted. As Damien walked around, he found a room with another SCP in there. He looked at the poster for it. SCP-914. Object Class Safe. Seems useful, he had thought. He pulled out his level 2 keycard and opened up the door. Inside was a giant machine filled with gears, springs, cogs, and other clockwork. He went over to the shelves and found an SNAV map and SCP-914's document. Refines objects. I wonder if I can get these key cards to a higher level. That and this gas mask. Looks pretty tight. Damien dropped his level 1 key card, gas mask, radio, and navigator in the input booth. He turned the knob to very fine and winded the mainspring. A half a minute later, in the output booth was an upgraded gas mask, a radio and navigator with no need for batteries, and an Omni key card. He tested out the gas mask and, surprisingly, it felt easier to breathe than normal. The navigator and radio no longer needed batteries, and a keycard Omni could get him anywhere. It was at that point that Damien decided he was finally ready to make his way out of the Foundation. He knew that it would be no easy task, as he still had a long way to go, but at least now he would have a much safer time. He got ready to make his way out of the room when he heard gurgling coming from behind him. He turned around, and what he saw cannot be explained in any way. Whatever it was coming out of the floor covered in that same black mucus that Damien kept finding on the floors and walls, and it looked like it had on a light black vest. The eyes were dark and shiny, and it had the most twisted grin on its face. It was SCP-106, the Old Man. Damien instantly knew to hightail it, as he had seen what that sludge did to the scientist. He ran through all the doors, ignoring whether they had something useful in them or not. All the while, the Old Man was slowly getting closer and closer.